All right, welcome back to ChaiGPT.
Hey,
Today we're not with Shazad Bhai. Shazad Bhai is not feeling well, so
he's under the weather.
feel better. But we do have an interesting segment today. We're going to talk about some interesting individual questions we have for each other prepared.
Yes,
So,
should be fun.
all right. So Fahad Bhai, the first question I have for you
Mm-hmm.
is, what do you think that your children fear the most? And your children are, you could talk about their age groups.
Right.
I think both of them would fear things a little bit differently.
Yes.
But I'm really interested to hear like what they talk to you about.
Yeah, sure. So I have two boys, 8 and 11,
Mm.
and like you said, they both have different fears. My older one, Zion, he's a little more clingy, so he doesn't like to be left alone. He's very social as well.
He's sweet.
Yeah, he's a sweet kid. All like the younger kids love being around him.
Mm.
So I think his biggest fear would be isolated. Like if he can't find me or if he can't find his mom, I think that's probably his biggest fear.
Like being isolated.
Yeah. I think, and he's still transitioning to, he's showing his, early teens because he's 11. But I think since he was a baby, it's always been his personality to always have people around him. So not having me around or not having his mom around would probably be his biggest fear. And my younger one, Gibran, he's 8. He's interesting. They're both unique personalities. Not so much about isolation. He actually has social anxiety.
Oh, really?
So he has the opposite.
What does that look like in a 8-year-old?
So he doesn't like new crowds. Like you have to kind of,
Interesting.
he has his own bubble, and you're part of it. But by the way,
I'm like his best
you've
friend
been
now.
you've been blessed. But yeah, there's only a handful of people that he's like allowed to be in his bubble.
Interesting. Yeah, because when I did first meet him, he was very,
Yeah, he's
very reserved.
yeah, he's a shell of himself with like new people. But once you break that shell, he's the sweetest kid, and he's hilarious by nature. Like he's one of the funniest kids I know.
Hey, let's make him a comic.
Yeah.
That'd be dope.
But yeah, I think his fear would be, or it is, the fact that he doesn't want to be around, just a large number of people that he doesn't know, and he gets a lot of social anxiety from it. So it's an interesting dynamic.
It's very interesting to me to like kind of get that inside perspective, because I think children, like, those weren't my fears when I was a kid,
Mm,
and I don't have children. So for me, it's like,
yeah.
what do you do? Sometimes I sit down with my nieces and nephews and ask them, like, how are you doing? Like, what are you going through?
Right.
What a unique perspective that is. So it's nice that you're, as a father, to be tapped in. I think that's really special.
And if I don't know, maybe if I sit down with Zion and Gibran, they may tell me something else. But just from observing as a father, outside looking in, that's what I noticed.
Then to kind of segue into my second question is, what do you fear the most for your children? In today's age, I mean, it's a weird time that we live in.
It's a challenging time to be a parent. There's so many. I mean, we talked about it on the podcast, like some of the factors that you can't control, like society, cartoons and entertainment, stuff that they're watching. That's obviously, those are like existing fears for a lot of the Muslim parents in America. But the biggest one,
Yeah, we can do like one child at a time.
to me, I treat both of them, or I try to treat both of them equally.
Of course.
So for me, my fear would be the same right across the board for both of my kids. And I think that would be,
That's interesting.
yeah.
That's interesting because they have very different personalities.
Yeah.
And one's older, so he has a
Right.
new set of challenges. But elaborate on that. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, for me, like as a dad, I'm more of like the, tough dad kind of, because all the, soft personality traits they get there from their mom.
Right, because
So I try to do the opposite
the mom's
and toughen them
naturally
up. Right.
the mom's naturally more nurturing, so it
Yeah.
makes sense.
So I guess my fear would be to kind of release my kids into the world where they haven't fully developed, like, thicker skin. Because both of my kids are homeschooled. So imagine now they're being introduced into public school and they don't know how to defend themselves. So that's like my biggest fear, because I was bullied as a kid. So I can't imagine like either Zion or Gibran, going into public school and just, not being able to handle certain situations. So having that tough foundation and being able to like defend yourself, know who you are, know your identity, and defend it, I think that would be my biggest fear.
Because you're right. I mean, bullying was very prevalent in our day and age. You're the older sibling, right?
Yeah, I'm the eldest of 3.
You're the eldest. So for me, that's interesting because for me, it was like I was the youngest brother. So I have 2 older brothers.
Yeah.
And so I kind of got used to having bullies around. You know what I mean? Not in like a bad way,
Right.
or an abusive way, but like they're my big brothers. They picked on me. They,
that's what brothers do.
Yeah,
they pick on each other.
They did that with me, so like I kind of was able to develop that tough skin at home. So you got to school, you're like,
this
you're
is nothing.
A corny kid. What are you gonna say to me?
This is light work.
Yeah. So with Zion being the older one, and you and them being homeschooled.
Yeah.
How do you go about making sure that they develop that tough skin? I mean, they're tough kids. I mean, they're very fun, physical kids. They play sports physically, and they're strong. But like when you talk about bullying, you're talking about mental strength, mental fortitude.
So I think Zion is, mashallah, he's already ahead in terms of like EQ. Like his emotional intelligence is, in some cases, better than mine.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'm not afraid to admit that.
Yeah.
It's also like they're coming from a place of privilege, right? Like they haven't been exposed to tough environments, inner cities. They grew up in the suburbs, homeschool. So in a way, someone can argue that they're kind of sheltered. They just have a different perspective from how we grew up. And my job is to kind of just focus on the physical aspect. When prepare them like, hey, it's okay to be in, tough situations. How do you come out of it? How to rebound from if something doesn't go your way, because there's going to be failures in life. So I try to bring that other perspective.
Yeah, that's fair. One of the things that kids go through that they're not prepared for until they've gone through it is, I think, getting roasted. Because from the other child's perspective, you're just having fun, you're joking, right? You're teasing each other. But I've noticed that there's some kids that cannot handle that.
Yeah.
Like sometimes, you just joke around and say, haha, look at that, or just messing with them, just kind of as you would your regular friends, and then you see them shut down. So how do you prepare them for that? Because
Zion's actually really good at that, because they play Fortnite with their friends online.
So
they are roasting each other nonstop. Nonstop.
How does Gibran handle it?
Gibran is not good at that. He gets frustrated. He starts yelling and screaming.
Yeah.
But Zion, like, it's normal to him. I think it's also the fact that he's a bit older.
Yeah, it comes with age a little bit.
Yeah, so I think Gibran just has to go through the ringer and come out of the phase.
I think also as a younger sibling, you kind of want to be accepted by
Yeah.
your older sibling.
Right.
And so if their friend are roasting you, then you kind of feel not only like roasted, but also feel like excluded.
Right.
Or maybe not their equal.
There's definitely a lot of that. The different age dynamics.
But I also noticed with Gibran, like, when I teased him when he first met me, he was like, oh, shut down.
Yeah.
But then now I tease him, now he talks trash right back.
Right.
He was talking trash
you're
to me
right.
in basketball.
That's true.
So I think it's also comfortability, I guess.
Yeah.
Do you fear that kind of reduces their practice time since they're homeschooled?
Yeah.
Of like getting that interaction socially?
I try my best to make sure that extracurricular activities are there, whether sports or, to me, like, online gaming is vital in this day and age. Like obviously
Really?
within limits,
Yeah, yeah.
but there's a whole social aspect to it, right? That you're playing with all your
Sure.
boys online. Like when we play Call of
Yes,
Duty,
yes.
right? There's like part of it is like catching up with each other, like on a day to day, what's going on with you, try to stay in touch. So I guess they're doing it at their level. So there's definitely social aspects to it. But yeah, try to find a good balance between everything. Because I want them to be well rounded, just
Of
like any other
course, of
parent.
course.
Taking things away at this age, I feel like you're doing a disservice to them.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think you do a really good job of drawing the line of what's flexible and fun and what's serious.
Right.
I've noticed that, and we can get in the conversation about that, about when you're not a parent,
Yeah.
developing that is kind of you. How do you go from fun uncle to like, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
It's for me. It's always the tone. Once I change my tone, they know that okay,
it's getting
dad is not a friend anymore.
mm,
Dad is dad.
yeah,
So they call me Baba. So they know that once that tone comes out,
it's serious.
it's time to buckle down.
But also like, I mean, you're freaking 6'3", 200 plus pounds. You're a big dude. I mean,
Yeah.
once you stand up, it's like okay, it's it's serious, right?
I try not to use my like, you know,
What do you mean not use it? What are you gonna do? What do you
height
walk
and
up to him
stuff.
on your knees? Come on, bro. It's like.
But I don't look at it that way.
But I don't think. But that's the thing. I don't think you're like physically
Right.
abusive or anything in the
Yeah.
sense that they fear you physically.
Right.
But I think you do have that presence that I think
Yeah.
as a child you would be like, okay, you know. What
All
I
right,
mean?
Dad, I'll go do it. Fine.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Um.
That's really funny. I mean, I'm glad that we can laugh about these things.
Yeah.
Because it'll like lead me to my next question: is what role does humor play in your life?
Oh, humor is, it's very important to me. I think it's like top 3 for me.
Top 3 meaning.
Like top 3 personality traits.
Mm.
I don't know. I just always been a person where I never took myself too seriously.
Yeah.
The people who always like are not able to make fun of themselves or not able to crack that shell
Mm-hmm.
are always like in stress or always overthinking or worrying about, oh, what is that person gonna say or this and that.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, the quickest way to break through that is humor. It's like if you can make fun of yourself, you're basically disarming any bullies or, you know, anyone at work, etc., whatever environment you're in.
That's true.
So humor to me has always been the key, like kind of like escape route to, you know, fall back on in any situation. So I don't know. Humor has always been very important to me.
I think, you know, as a comedian, I think for me, humor is like, if in a friendship, relationship, whatever, there's no humor,
Yeah,
like how boring, dude.
I know.
You know?
Exactly.
And also, like when you, you feel like you use humor, because people use humor in so many different ways, right?
Yeah.
Do you feel like you use humor more so to like just kind of connect or cope?
That's a great question. I think I do both. Cause I mean, just with life, you know, you have your ups and downs.
Mm-hmm.
And during your dark times, if you can still put a smile on your face or make someone else happy, I feel like that's a good coping mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I use it for both.
Thanks for answering those questions. But I have one more question for you.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that I think I've talked. I don't know if I haven't talked about it on this podcast yet, but
Yeah.
a mechanism that I heard about which really makes you appreciate everything that you have and what you've accomplished in life
Yeah.
is imagining your younger self, your childhood self, like running up to you
Yeah.
and seeing who and what you are
Damn.
today.
That's deep.
Yeah, how would they feel, right? So my question to you is, if your childhood self
Yeah.
could see you today, you turn around, they're walking to the door, and they see you today, what you've become, all that you've accomplished,
Yeah.
your strengths, your weaknesses, how would that child feel?
That's a deep question. One, I hope they're proud because life is just so many challenges, right? Even now, I feel like I haven't figured anything out. So if a younger version of me is coming up, I'm just gonna be confused. Like, bro, I don't know what to tell you. So from my perspective, I feel like I'm still learning. Like the day I feel like I've figured everything out, then what's the point of living?
Yeah.
Then to me, it's like always learning, always sharpening your intellect, knowledge. So if a younger version of me comes, I don't know. I hope he sees that, you know, we came from rough upbringing, didn't have much. We grew up poor. Like once we moved to America, so seeing where we are now, I hope he's somewhat proud, because I didn't think I'd be in this situation.
Yeah.
Growing up, you're like, oh, $100,000 salary, that's amazing, you've made it. And now in my 40s, like, bro, it's like
You don't
barely
understand-
scratching
yeah,
the surface.
Yeah, I know. You also don't understand inflation as a child.
Yeah, exactly.
Or how money really works. Right?
Yeah, culture, money. Let's bounce the same question back to you. Like, how would your younger self feel running up to you?
Oh man, I think about it. I think about this a lot.
Yeah.
And to answer that question, I'll kind of give you an image of what my younger self was, and then I'll kind of bridge the gap.
Yeah.
If that's fair.
It makes sense.
So, when I was younger, I was very, very insecure. I think, I felt like there wasn't really anything spectacular about myself. And then also physically, I was very self-conscious about how skinny I was or different whatever things about me, because of the bullying.
Oh, yeah.
And I was a terrible student. All I did was play basketball all day long. I did not expect myself to be in like a career or anything like that, right? So I think if my younger self saw me today, he would be very proud.
Yeah.
I think he'd be ecstatic.
That's awesome.
Because growing up with not so much and now being in the position that I am today, I mean, shoot.
Yeah.
I think we'd be really happy. And I think I reflect on this question a lot, and I think about it a lot because I think it does help to ground yourself
Right.
and make you feel grateful for everything that you have.
And yeah, mashallah, you're like, pretty accomplished. So yeah, there's definitely
also I put on like 30 pounds. I never I never would have imagined.
And hopefully the bullying has gone away.
Yeah.
And now you're bullying others.
Yeah.
On the court.
Listen, one thing is this, right? Like no matter how old you get, your older siblings are still your older siblings.
Yeah, true.
So there's still, but the relationship evolves.
Yeah. What is like your number one goal before you hit 40? You're 32 right now.
Yeah.
So you have 8 solid years.
Oh man. So okay, I have two main goals at the same time. Because I am a comedian and I'm pursuing comedy as my passion.
He's also a model.
Yeah, so I do that sometimes, but primarily just kind of stick to my comedy stuff now, because it's where my passion is.
It's a lot of side missions.
A lot of side missions, dude, for real.
But mashallah, yeah, that's awesome.
I would love to be able to do like I want to do like a proper tour, like an international tour. And inshallah, if things play out right this year, I could make it happen sooner rather than later.
So like multiple countries or like multiple cities in a country?
Multiple countries. That would be the dream. Like just do like a world tour.
That would be sick.
And a successful world tour. And I hope to have at least my first special taped.
Would it be like a halal tour? You go to all like the Muslim countries?
I would assume that I would hope that I have the following of my Muslim brothers and sisters.
Inshallah.
Inshallah. So that'd be really cool for me. And then
that sounds dope.
Yeah, from like my corporate perspective, I'd love to be a CIO. Yeah, we have a friend that's a CIO. Yeah, and he's a total inspiration to me.
Oh yeah, he's brilliant.
Inshallah, we'll have him on this podcast.
One day he'll be on.
Self-made CIO, like just well-rounded, super dope,
hilarious.
Also
a baller.
I think so. It was cool when I first met him because I was like, "Oh, that's my dream." You know what I mean?
You're my dream, Shaquille.
Yeah, like you're living out, and it's really cool to see that. Have someone that you're so close to do what you are trying to do, right? Like that's a big deal. As a comic, I have some comedians that do world tours. I have friends that are that big, and so I have I can create my own roadmap.
And I think we need to, like, in our community, we need to normalize that, like, having mentors within that are reachable, right?
Yep.
Not like some social media influence that you have to pay a membership.
Exactly.
Like, they're within your community, they're
Yeah.
reachable. So
Yeah.
I feel like that is like a big piece that's like needed.
That's needed. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think
So that's awesome.
I think the best part is like I have someone that I can just call up
Yeah.
and ask questions
Right.
without feeling like, oh, I'm gonna ask this guy, I'm gonna be embarrassed, or he's gonna think I'm stupid, or any of those
No.
things. I think that's the biggest thing, right? You
Right.
have to be able to have a position to be able to ask those stupid questions. So,
Right.
but to answer your question, yeah, those two things. If I could have a world tour and a comedy special,
Bro.
and then eventually become CIO before I turn 40, that
What's
would be...
A, what's B? 1A, 1B.
Oh, that's a good question. I would say comedy first. That's like where my passion is.
Right.
So I would say comedy would be the
What
goal.
would you call the tour?
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't even know, dude.
No?
I have to think about it. I have to think about
Okay.
that.
We won't put you on the spot. If you were to become a father today, 2024,
Yeah.
what would be like your biggest fear?
Oh my god, dude. Oh my god. I think there's so much responsibility that from going from not having children at all.
Mm-hmm.
See, the beautiful thing about 9-month pregnancy is it gives you 9 months of mental preparation and physical preparation. So
Yeah.
if it would have happened like, oh, hey, day of, boom, you're a father. Gee Louise, bro. I don't even know what I would say or what I
It's
would
like
do.
being thrown in the deep end.
Yeah, I think, oh my goodness, man. I'll give you an example of like how, like, I think I can handle it, right? I think I can do it. I have so many stupid people in the world that are parents. Oh my God. But like,
Yeah.
I think I could do it.
But that's the beauty of parenthood. Like, whether you're prepared or not,
It's gonna happen.
it's going to happen and you're going to go through
Yeah.
the transition.
Like, there was one of the scariest things that ever happened is my nephew was in the car with me, spending the day with me. And he lives out in the suburbs, right? We went to go pick up some pizza.
Yeah.
And I pull over, parallel park. And before I even put the car in park,
Mm.
he's already jumping out the door into traffic. I'm like, yo! You know what I mean? I'm like, you can't just... Like that, so when I returned him to my brother, I was like, "Bro, how do you keep this thing alive?" Like, he almost died twice on my watch, dude.
Yeah. But that's the thing. That's the beauty of it. Like, there is no, rule book. Every parent is in survival mode. Seriously. I think,
Dude,
especially
so
in the early stages, like 0 to, I would say maybe 2 to 3 years of.
Yeah, when they can't communicate.
Right.
Yeah. Well, they do communicate, but they can't.
It definitely gets easier, but there's no rule book. Like, you do
Yeah.
whatever works for you and your partner.
Mm-hmm,
Like, there's no like, oh, we got to go through this checklist. No, it's whatever you and your wife have figured out. This is what's gonna work for us, and then you roll with that plan.
You roll with it and you stay
Roll with it,
agile.
and then stay agile, make changes on the fly.
Yeah. I want to be able to provide the absolute highest quality and value in our relationship as father-son or father-daughter. Right? Because it's like, it's a natural relationship, but there are some people who got nothing from their parents.
So there's I call them as hands-on versus hands-off parents.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's like, I've known of, like, within our community, the dad is living in Saudi Arabia and the family's here, so they're completely hands-off. So either the mom or
Father by name and by money.
Exactly. So I think we're probably in the same boat where we want to be involved with our kids' lives, very hands-on. So.
Yeah, I just want to be able to I want my kids to be able to say, you know what, he added as much value to our lives as he possibly could have.
Right. And they won't realize that until like when they're of age, right? Probably closer to college. Like, oh wow, my dad was involved in a lot of aspects of my life. As a comic, as a Muslim comic, how do you stay within the boundaries? Because that's got to be challenging.
Oy, oy, oy.
Especially how, one, society in general has become so soft. And then as a Muslim community, we've also, morphed into a different version. So how do How do you find how do you find ways to like stay within bounds?
Like I don't think you can always do that. And I'll give you a core example.
Yeah.
I did a show one time, and my comedy is clean. I don't curse. I
Right.
don't talk about sex, drugs,
Yeah.
violence. I don't talk about any of the rubbish.
It's halal certified.
It's halal certified, yeah, 100%. But you know, I did a couple of jokes, and you know, like this woman came up after me, behind, and she was like, "Hey, you were really funny, but I would get rid of joke X and joke Y." And I was like, "Why?"
Right.
She's like, "Well, so and so auntie was in the audience, and her daughter is X, Y, and Z. So that joke that you made would offend her. I saw her face; she was a little offended by that. And there was another auntie in the
Oh
audience
my god.
who had this, and you said that, so then that kind of made her feel." Part of me was like, "You do realize that as a comic, I can't pre-survey the audience and then rewrite my material, or right to do that every time."
That sounds like a Muslim Karen.
Yeah.
Shagufta. We'll give her Shagufta.
Shagufta? What? I've never heard that name. That's a real name?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Shagufta auntie.
Okay, if there's any out there that we just
We
offended,
apologize.
please.
But we're trying to find a Muslim name to replace Karen's.
Yeah.
But sounds like a Karen.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, the hardest part is just like get it, like just those kind of instances. And so like I do my best. I know what's halal, haram. I know what's
Right.
acceptable and not acceptable in Islam. So I know what I can and cannot talk about in my own principles. Now, that's a very difficult thing to say you can and cannot talk about, because comedy is an art form where it's like freedom of expression.
Right.
But as a Muslim, we play within different rules. And that's okay, because they're self-applied rules, right? I would never say this to another comedian who's not Muslim. That's their own set of rules.
Yeah.
But as a Muslim specifically, as long as I stay within those, I feel pretty comfortable. And it's just like, but at the end of the day, you cross the line somehow. Anyways. But here's a PSA to all the freaking people that are going to come to a halal comedy show
Yeah.
and have problems. Okay? Because I know for a fact that they're going to then go and watch Netflix and watch all the filth that they want to watch.
For sure.
But when you're at a halal show, all of a sudden, you are so particular about everyone and how they said one thing or the other.
Damn their double standards.
So many.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so.
Yeah, they just got done watching Game of Thrones and are offended by a
Exactly.
Muslim comic joke.
Bro, one time, what happened, I did a show out in Detroit.
Yeah.
It was my worst show I ever did in my life. I mentioned the word gay.
Wow.
Mentioned the word gay. And oh my God, I've never had so many people shut down on me in one instance.
That's because there were probably so many parents who are dealing with like gay kids or something.
No, but like you are engulfed in society where
Right.
this is a real reality where you face it in the TV shows you
Yes.
watch and in the people you interact with.
This
There's
is
nothing-
America. You're not
There's nothing wrong with it.
right.
Right? There's nothing wrong. There's nothing taboo in Islam.
Right.
Nothing is taboo in Islam. But we create these taboos and create these,
Right.
so that's what makes it most difficult for me to like stay contained as a Muslim comedian, or like not cross the line. It just depends on different people and their perspectives.
I guess I'm very devious. Like I always like to cross the line, or I always like to test the waters at least.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just my personality, I guess.
Yeah. When your kids inherit that personality in their genes, you might have a different.
Yeah. But that's because that's how I am. Like rarely where there's a moment where I get offended. So I kind of expect that from the world, but maybe
That's
I
not the
shouldn't.
case.
Yeah, that's definitely not the case.
People are sensitive, dude.
Very sensitive.
Bro, people
And
are-
I think it goes back to like not taking yourself too seriously. I think those are the people that are getting
Bro,
offended.
people are so sensitive.
Everyone thinks like they're the main character.
You know what's so funny? That show I was telling you about where the auntie came? I'll give you a clear example.
Yeah.
The guy who opened for me, right? Hilarious friend of mine. His name is Shane O'Connor, Philadelphia. Hilarious. Follow him. Whatever. But he had a joke
Yeah.
about being preemie. Like, the joke was essentially like, the only interesting thing white people ever have is like, oh, I was premature. Like, that's their interesting fact, right? It's just a joke,
That's
right?
their struggle.
The lady that hired us, which we didn't know, had triplets that were all premature.
Oh.
She was laughing and enjoying herself. And
There you go.
She hired us to perform this. She had a great time. Some other auntie was offended on her behalf and had to make it known to us that she had premature. And we're like, dude, we didn't, like...
Stop that.
Stop that.
Stop that.
Just cut
Please
it out.
stop that.
Just cut it out.
Yeah.
Just chill out.
Yeah.
Okay? And at the end of the day, right, if as a Muslim, I have to answer to Allah for the things that I do and the things that I say.
Right.
Right. You don't have to answer for me, so...
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, make it very clear.
Life is already stressful as it is. Just don't stop finding new ways to like be stressed out.
Absolutely, man.
So fall back on humor.
Fall back on humor. Yes.
Full circle.
Full circle. All right, well, that's our episode today. Thank you so much from here, ChaiGPT.
Hope you guys like the new or different format.
Yeah, this was.
It was fun for us.
This was cool.
Very deep conversations.
Yeah, for sure. I had a good time. Make sure you follow, subscribe, share, do what you can.
Yes.